Hello and welcome back. This is John Struggle Dork, Fuller Brain Mind Thinking. This is clip 8. We've been talking about, the brain and the mind and all the things that go on. And in the last one, we were talking about the bouncing ball. And in my view, it's easy to blame schools for what's going on. But I think that's really a misunderstanding of what's going on all around us. So let me give you my thoughts on what I think is going on. And so I say here, it would be easy to leave the matter there and blame the school system. I think there is another matter even deeper than the school system. That is the speed the world's information signals are moving and the speed of receiving those signals. It's really important to understand that the world changed. It absolutely changed with the onset of the internet, and we started to train ourselves and teach ourselves how to use the internet. And then we started hooking things up to it. And now we've got the internet. And really, the internet was emails and it was, being able to connect websites and all the rest of it. But now we've got this Internet of Things, which are all the sensorial devices. We've got so many sensorial devices around the world. We've got cameras, we've got temperature signals, we've got all kinds of things that replicate the senses of our body. So now we're getting information, and the information that we're getting in is moving at the speed of the internet. So we're gathering information and we're storing information at just absolute unbelievable rates of understanding. Our school system can't keep up with it. And what's happening is we're expecting it too, but it's not going to keep up because of the speed of the world, the acceleration. Fuller would call it the acceleration of accelerations. With all the latest technologies, the markets all over the world today are about the speed with depth that any human being on this planet can manage any given point in time. We have so much information. We have so much data. We call it big data. But that big data is made up of all these sensorial devices that are attached to the Internet of Things. So we have much more accurate information. We don't have to rely a lot on what do we remember, because our memories are really short-lived and we remember them the way we want to, whereas the internet remembers, or the Internet of Things remembers the way it was recorded. And so we can go back to the recordings, we can go back and we can look at exactly what's going on. So if we look at this, decisions are now more than ever scenario driven. We as human beings have far more choices to manage, more than any other time in human being history. As human beings, in my opinion, we have the design to manage the complexities of today's world. And really the internet and the Internet of Things has changed everything we do. It's changing our information, the speed of our information, the accuracy of our information, the reaggregation of the information. And so when we start to look at it, we have to start asking ourselves, what do I really need? What is it that I really need? And when you look at it, all you really need is all the essentials of air, water, food, climatic control, temperature control, so your body doesn't heat up and get too hot or too cold. And then we have the absolute need of reproducing the seeds of the human being race. And so we've got to look at this. We now go to wants. And with the world and technology, we can have desires, all the desires that we can imagine. And at some moment, we're going to get to this point where we have to make a decision about enough. I really think that we're entering the world of enough. What is enough? Really, do we really have to see again today? I'm watching on TV, Paris, 118 people killed in a theater, people killed in controlled attacks around the city of Paris. I mean, what more do we need to have to realize that doesn't work? It's just not working for us. And we have to make some clear decisions. And in doing that, in the fuller brain mind things, we have to reflect upon these things. We don't want to model them. Do we want to model hatred? We've got to reflect on the hatred, and we've got to refract. What if we did this? What if we really did this? In my view, what if we took care of all the babies that were born on this planet? What if we made sure that they weren't hungry? What if we made sure that they lived in loving, safe homes instead of all this nonsense that's going on around the world, all this killing, all this selling and deploying of arms? It's just ridiculous. In two generations, if we just took care of our babies, if we just took care of the seeds of the next iteration of this magnificent thing called human beings, and we reflected and we refracted, we'd start to look at the circumstance. What circumstance are we bringing these children up in? What circumstance are we living in? How could anyone think it was okay to be in a theater and shoot people off? How could it be okay to kill people and then kill ourselves? It makes no sense. We've got to look at these circumstances. We've got to reflect on them. We've got to refract on them. And we've got to what if events. Why do we make the significant events about making money? Significant events about killing people? Why aren't the significant events about really looking at the decisions that are being made, the decisions of doing ever more with ever less, to allow us to live an abundant life and allow us to be more than what we are today? We have that ability. We have that ability right now. With all the technology, it's time to start looking at it. It's time to make decisions. Human beings are between macro and micro. We're between the very, very big pictures and the big happenings and the very small pictures. And the thing is, we have a choice. I cannot see that having a choice of going into Paris and killing people and thinking it's okay that those people are killed. I just cannot believe that that's our solution. Really, we've got to start looking and reflecting on our design. What is this great design? We've got to stop blaming schools, we've got to stop blaming governments, and we've got to start looking at ourselves. Struggle dork out.
One of the 6 sites the terrorists targeted in Paris.
A Paris evening erupts in violence. Dozens have been killed in shootings and explosions, the deadliest attacks in France in decades. A central restaurant was one of the targets.
I was sat in the restaurant when the gunshots were heard. We immediately fell to the floor with all the other diners, and we were maybe on the floor for 40 seconds. We had numerous gunshots. The woman who was lying next to me, I soon realised she'd been fatally wounded, I think in the chest.
Hundreds more have been held hostage in a theatre, a siege which ended in gunfire.
Men erupted in the middle of the concert. They were shouting "Allahu Akbar." They were carrying automatic weapons. They opened fire on the crowd.
2 explosions were heard outside the Stade de France stadium north of the city during a match between France and Germany. French President François Hollande had been in the stadium for the match. Crowds poured onto the pitch and sang the French national anthem as they left. It's still not clear if the events are linked, but US intelligence officials are quoted as suggesting they may be coordinated. Emergency services rushed onto the streets. Helicopters have been flying overhead. Tension has been high. Arrests have been made, although it's not clear if they're connected to the violence.
As I speak, terror of an unprecedented scale is happening in the Paris region. Several dozen have been killed, many wounded. It's horrible. We have, on my decision, mobilized all possible forces so that the terrorists can be neutralized and to secure all the areas affected. I've also asked for military reinforcement, which is currently in the Parisian region, to ensure no new attacks can take place.
France has been on edge since the attacks in January on the offices of the Charlie Hebdo satirical magazine and a grocery. In August, on a high-speed train, a heavily armed man was stopped from carrying out an attack by travelers from the US. And France is part of the US-led coalition carrying out air bombardments on the ISIL armed group in Syria and Iraq. Meanwhile, the hashtag Peace for Paris has been spreading across the web. Rob Matheson, Al Jazeera.
Really? Is this the best we can do? Is this really the best we can do? Having people running around with guns and vests and helicopters and fear and shooting people. Is this the best we can do? At all levels, there's something that's not being understood. There's something that we have to be able to change. We can't keep killing and killing and killing and killing. It only begets killing. We have to be able to think beyond that. I think that was Fuller's main message. We have to be responsible. We have to look at this thing and we have to say, what can we do? We have to be accountable for this. I mean, who could possibly think it was okay, all this killing? Really?